Today is the second Sunday of Advent. We'll be focusing on making room for peace and justice at our table. In the spirit of peace and reconciliation, we worship today from the traditional and unceded lands of the Squamish Nation. With this commitment to peace and reconciliation, let us worship God.
Like the childhood game of musical chairs, we are often convinced that there are not enough places at the table, and so we shrink the guest list just in case there's not enough, and we scramble to get to the first chairs. And yet, our sacred texts invite us to imagine and make real the gathering of all people at the table, robed in the garments of a peace that comes with justice. This is what really matters. This is the fruit of what is right and good. I invite you to remain seated while we sing during our Advent candle lighting, which is the Hughes family this week. No, the Kerr family this week, I apologize. The song is the same as last week, with the word peace replacing hope to reflect the second Sunday of Advent. Kayla is going to do a masterful job on the keyboard, but she's got laryngitis, so you have to put up with my froggy baritone. And you may laugh at it, but just sing along to drown me out. Okay, I got it now. Hope waits for us at Advent. Hope waits for us to rest. Peace waits for our acceptance in our back to the past. In this time of preparation for the work of co-creation, for the birthing of a world where gentle lies and play. Please make love today.
Like the childhood game of musical chairs.
I'll go ahead.
Okay, good, thank you.
Today we offer the light of peace to illumine the door of welcome. May this light shine in our hearts, in our lives, and in our church. May peace awaken us to possibilities and lead us to greater hospitality. There is room in this inn, a house for the holy.
Peace waits for us at Advent. Peace waits for us to trust. Peace waits for our commitment to the Lamb that's born and just.
now the gathering time, which is meant for the kids, all 4 of them. So Eleanor, would you like to come up and help me do the children's time, or the gathering time? Would you be willing to help me? Okay, so the service this week is about the table of peace, and a particular song that Julie and I are going to sing is called El Mon de la Mar, or the Child of the Mother. And what I want you to imagine, and I want everybody to help, is I want you to imagine that in about 3 weeks or so, when baby Jesus arrives and his mom and dad come to Bethlehem, we want to have a picnic ready to serve them a fine meal. So, what I would like you guys to think of is if you were going to make a most special, best, favorite food meal for Jesus and his mom and dad, what foods would you like to have on the table? Shout it out. Somebody thought of popcorn, because they really like popcorn. Pizza.
Pizza, okay. What else should we bring to the picnic?
Fruit.
Fruit, okay.
Carrots.
Carrots? You guys are like way too health conscious. Broccoli? Oh, yeah. Do I have to eat it? I was thinking like maybe turkey dinner. Steamed broccoli. Oh, okay. Is that one of your favorite foods?
Cheese whiz.
Sorry, what?
Cheese whiz.
Cheese whiz with steamed broccoli. Okay, like we have got a feast coming. Cake.
Ice cream.
Ice cream. What flavor? Pistachio?
Vanilla, of course.
Vanilla. Okay, so we got vanilla ice cream, brownies, steamed broccoli with cheese whiz, carrots.
Anything from Golden Crust.
Anything from Golden Crust, so maybe mincemeat pies. Whoa, we have got a feast. Okay, so do you remember the Christmas box, the Advent box? How could we turn this into a picnic table? Think we could do that? Yeah, or we could maybe use it as, we could use it as a table. So I'm going to suggest, let's move this up to here. You could put the food on it. Okay, let's, you and me, set up the picnic table right here. So, can you move the box? Let's lift the box. All right. Hey, what's that? Remember this was the box of possibilities last week? We hoped for things. What do you think that is? Do you think that's all the carrots and broccoli with cheese whiz and mince pies and things? What could we use this for? A napkin. A tablecloth. Let's set up the tablecloth. So we are going to turn this box of possibilities into a picnic cloth. Okay. All right. Now we got some plates here, or some bowls. Who should we set the table for? Who's going to come to our picnic? You going to come?
Well, I know that baby Jesus' parents are going to come.
Okay, so how many plates do we need for me?
3.
Yeah, for a mom, a dad, and one for baby Jesus. You gonna come?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, who else would you like to invite to this picnic?
I don't know.
Would your grandma and grandpa like to come? Do you think? Ask them. You want to come to our picnic?
Sure.
Okay. Now, if you remember the Christmas story, who else might show up?
Oh, the three people that gave baby Jesus the gifts.
Ah, the 3 wise men from a faraway land, right? Okay, well, the table's getting a little bit crowded, but I think we got room. Anybody else might show up? The shepherds. Okay. Who else?
The animals.
Animals. Okay.
There's a lot of animals.
There's a lot of animals.
donkey,
Yeah.
and a camel.
Yeah? You think we got, it's the table's always big enough. We can always make room for one more. All right, but I'm just about out of plates. I've only got room for 3 more plates. Anybody else?
How about the angels?
Oh, an angel might come.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if we had a plate that we could put up here, because the angel flies, you could park it up here, right? But we can't, we'll put it down here. Now, so in the middle here, we're gonna have steamed broccoli with cheese whiz, and popcorn, carrots, and all those other healthy foods. In the carol that Kayla and I are gonna play, 200 in Spain, they listed the foods they would like to bring for baby Jesus. And you know what I did? I brought them. So, what do you think of these things? We got,
Olives.
oh, olives, yeah, they wanted to bring olives. So we got some olives. Remember what else they wanted to bring? Did Nana and Papa go over it with you? They thought walnuts would be a really good food to bring. Anything else? They thought dried grapes would be a good thing to bring.
But I thought there's raisins. Well, raisins are technically grapes.
The dried grapes, yeah. Okay. And they thought figs were really special.
What are figs?
Exactly. And the last thing that they thought that baby Jesus would really like was soft goat cheese. Have you ever heard of cheese being made from goat milk?
I've ate goat cheese.
You've ate goat cheese, and what did you think of it?
It's really good.
It's good. Okay. So, are any of these foods familiar?
Usually I have dried grapes in my cereal.
So, dried grapes, that would be okay.
I love olives.
Olives. Oh, good. You're not going to starve at
I
this
love goat cheese.
Okay, so 3 out of 5, we're doing pretty good. All right, so the message is, at the table of peace, which we're celebrating this Advent, we're going to welcome basically everyone. Even if they are from a different land, a different time, speak a different language, and have different cultures, they're still going to be welcome at our table. All right? And that's the message that Kayla and I are going to play on my recorder and her piano. So I'm going to invite you to head back here to listen to the music, and then you're going to go to Children's Church. Okay?
you, Louise and Caleb. That was beautiful. The peace of Christ be with you. As we rise in body or spirit for our next hymn, I invite you to pass the wave of peace or the folded hands of Namaste to the people around you and the people worshiping it. Please stand. Our first, thank you. You may remain standing. Our first hymn this morning, You People Look East, number 9, Voices United. Wendy will share our scripture reading with us this morning.
The first reading is from Galatians 3:14-17. Above all, clothe yourself with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in the one body. And be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. Teach and admonish one another in all wisdom, and with gratitude in your hearts. Sing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs to God. And whatever you do, in word or deed, do everything in the name of Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. The second reading is from Philippians 1, verses 3-11. I thank my God every time I mention you in my prayers. I'm thankful for all of you every time I pray, and it's always a prayer full of joy. I'm glad because of the way you have been my partners in the ministry of the gospel from the time you first believed it until now. I'm sure about this. The one who started a good will stay with you to complete the job by the day of Jesus Christ. I have good reason to think this way about all of you because I keep you in my heart. You are all my partners in God's grace, both during my time in prison and the defense and support the gospel. God is my witness that I feel appreciation for all of you with the compassion of Jesus Christ. This is my prayer, that your love might become even more and more rich with knowledge and all kinds of insights. I pray this so that you will be able to decide what really matters, and so you will be sincere and blameless on the day of Christ. I pray that you will be filled with the fruit of righteousness which comes from Jesus Christ, in order to give glory and praise to God. giving.
The documentary we are about to watch and the introduction I'll share were created by the United Church of Canada and offered as a story for the second Sunday of Advent, when we light the candle of peace. During the past week, I've been reminded of this powerful message and our role as Squamish United Church in being an inclusive and welcoming church, including learning more about people of other faiths and beliefs. At the Advent Book Group on Thursday, we were asked what we hoped for during Advent. After all, it was the candle of hope. The first hope mentioned was hoping that the people of the world would stop, take a moment, and get to know each other. Yes, we hope for peace. At a church leadership meeting, we celebrate strengths and ongoing goals is being a model and leader in religious inclusivity. We make room at the table here at Squamish United Church. Here is the introduction to the documentary as found in the materials from the United Church of Canada, Building Bridges, which we will watch in a moment. December is one of the holiest months of the year. Along with Christmas, there's the Jewish festival of Hanukkah, winter solstice rituals, as well as spiritually significant days for Buddhist, Muslims, and Zoroastrians. That makes this month a good month of time to remember what unites us. It's important that we do. In October, Global Affairs Canada stated worldwide the right to practice, choose, and change one's religious belief is increasingly under attack. According to the Pew Research Center in 2018, more than a quarter of the world's countries experienced hostilities caused by religious hatred, mob violence related to religion, terrorism, and harassment of women for violating religious codes. Don Dowds, the City of Edmond chaplain, in the film we're about to view, says, "I think we have a great lack of understanding of other faith traditions. Lack of understanding breeds contempt and fear. The more we understand, the more we talk, there's a greater opportunity to break down some of the walls of fear. We can't do that if we keep talking about us and them." The film is produced by the Edmonton Interfaith Center for Education and Action, a mission and service partner. Our gifts through mission and service support this center, the first of its kind in Canada, to hold interfaith celebrations, dialogues, and learning events. This is one way our mission and service gifts not only transform the lives of others, but can also change ours for the better too. I'm going to skip ahead. This introduction goes through and quotes quite a few people from the documentary, and they will speak much better for themselves than I can do for them. Concludes with each one of us needs to take a clear public stand against intolerance and for love. During this month, which is so much about spiritual deepening for so many of us, let us take that stand. Let's build bridges of peace with all of our neighbors.
Baha'is believe that all religions come from the same source, and that the purpose of all of these religions is to to unite people and to teach us about love and teach us how to become more peaceful and harmonious. So this interfaith harmony is so critical.
The Edmonton Interfaith Centre for Education and Action is the first of its kind in Canada. It is a coalition, a community of 13 or more faith traditions, which are many of our first dialogues were just among the Abrahamic faiths, Jewish, Christian, Muslim. But we're in a city populated by Jains and Zoroastrians and Sikhs, and Buddhists and Hindus and indigenous people, and people who profess to be atheists have a place at the table as well.
When I discovered the Interfaith Centre in the late 1990s, I joined immediately and became involved because it's so important. The more we know about each other, the better we get along and the fewer misunderstandings we'll have.
We all have to learn how to cooperate and figure out how to get along, otherwise you do end up with wars. And so the only way you work with that is trying to understand each other a little bit better and finding your common ground. What things do you all believe in? What things do you all hold important?
The important thing is the ethics, how you treat other people and how you see other people. That's the important thing. That's part of that commonality.
My name is John Dowds, and my position in the city is I'm the lead chaplain and the senior mental health consultant for the City of Edmonton employees and their families. So this is the Celebrating Our Faiths cabinet. And the purpose of the cabinet is to give the faith communities that are a part of the Interfaith Centre an opportunity to tell their story. I think we have a great lack of understanding of other faith traditions, and lack of understanding sometimes either breeds contempt sometimes or fear. I think the more we understand and the more we talk, then there's a greater sense, there's a greater opportunity to break down some of the walls of fear. We can't do that if we keep talking about us and them.
Today's global fight is not between peoples, communities, or religions. It is between all moderates of all faiths against all extremists in all religions.
A lot of the times religion has been corrupted by people who have selfish desires or want power or money or want to use religion as a means to control.
It's not about religion, it's about power, and it's about politics like everything else. It's about exploiting the flaws in human nature, how easy it is to turn one group of people against another on a religious basis or an ethnicity basis, Hutus and Tutsis, Germans and Jews. It's not about religion, and if we had more religious literacy, people would know that. But
if you look deep enough into each religious group, you've got good and bad people in there. So to me, it has nothing to do with the faith or the lack of faith. It has to do with the person and what values they hold and how they were raised and things like that. So faith is a vehicle for it, but not the necessary vehicle for it.
I think what unifies is our common commitment to peace and justice and compassion, and to be this voice for the offended, victimized, and oppressed. We're still coming to terms with truth and reconciliation with Indigenous people, and Indigenous people have been part of the Edmonton Interfaith Centre almost from its beginnings.
Indigenous spirituality was rejected by the church itself many years back. Their spirituality is deeply rooted into Mother Earth, into the land, into the relationship with the people. So how they practiced in their own way has to be brought back.
Father talked about the importance of healing together as all nations. And we come together here, that's why I'm here, because I separated from the church when I was a young boy, and through my own personal healing came back. It's so important to understand our own values, our own traditions, and to share them openly and honestly. When we don't share who we are as individuals, like the different cultures, it creates fears. You're standoffish against those people. So you don't want to deal with them, and you're afraid to ask them anything. So that creates blockages, and it creates hatred.
I think education is the key. Very often A lot of hatred is based on misunderstanding, on stereotypes, and you need to break those barriers down. The only way you do it is through dialogue.
Leaders of every country, every belief, every neighborhood need to take a clear and public stand against intolerance of any kind.
The tendency often is something good happens and we sort of think, oh, well, good, our work is done, things are looking up, and then there'll be some ghastly incident somewhere in the world, and we realize that it's only a facade, and it doesn't take much to break through that and see that there is still so much misunderstanding and hatred, true hatred.
Well, take a look at this note right here, left on the doorstep of this Edmonton mosque behind me earlier this week. It's content enough for Edmonton police to submit this for an investigation to its hate crimes unit, with local Muslim officials telling us it's just part of a larger disturbing trend.
A lot of people act the way that they act because they're ignorant to the reality of other religions. They do not have the awareness or the education that they need to understand and respect each other's point of view. I think once we start respecting and understanding that each person has the right to their own faith within their family, within their community, we can just live better together.
Too often at the extremes are radical elements that aren't at all reflecting the essence of the values of their respective faith traditions. When they've been targeted, there's been this great uprising of people from a whole variety of faith traditions to say, this was not right, how are you okay, and what can we do to help you?
We had a couple of just fellow citizens that came by and with flowers and said, we're here with you, we support you, we love you. So it's been really sweet. It showed the true colors of all Albertans.
My name's Carl Fakeley, and I teach religious studies, which includes world religions. What I'm hoping that my students get from this is the opportunity to experience these various places of worship and to learn from people who are leaders in these communities and experience them in a way that would be far more in depth than just simply reading about it in a textbook, and to learn about it in a very real way, to see how the people in these communities are helping within their communities, being there to support one another.
What we are here right now, we're actually in the Langar Hall. Basically, a Langar Hall is a community kitchen. It's probably around 18, 19 hours a day that we serve food to every single person that comes through that door. Doesn't matter of their religion, doesn't matter of their sexual orientation, nothing like that. So if you guys want to just line up, grab a plate and head to the front there, and they'll serve you there. Grab whatever you like, and if you guys want samosas, they're going to be on that table as well. And the thing with a Langar Hall is that everyone sits on the floor and eats, right? Doesn't matter if it's a king, a queen, and that represents the equality, and humankind is all one. The Sikh belief is that we are all part of one God, right? It's just the way we worship God is different, right? It is only one creator in the world.
Like, no matter your religion, no matter your sexual orientation, race, everyone's welcome here. There's respect everywhere, and it's quite nice to see, actually.
People come who are addicted, people who have no homes, people who are really marginalized. Like last night, I had 3 men asking for shoes and socks, and I gave them whatever we had. So these are daily needs. These are the people directly they need our help. They know that we go to Sacred Heart, there is something is available.
We do the food bank, we go and volunteer there. We also have a stretch of highway that we clean up, and just regularly there'll be events every now and again where we'll decide to go and volunteer and do things. We've actually got one of our members that's a regular of Catholic Social Services that she volunteers.
In Judaism, we have the concept of tikkun olam, to repair the world. If you're going to talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. And you have to follow up whatever you say with actual positive actions to change those things that are wrong.
A mosque in North Edmonton is opening its doors as we speak to anyone who doesn't have a warm place to sleep tonight.
Within moments of them putting out a request for help, there was an outpouring of support from volunteers, not just people from this community, people of all religions and cultures.
I think we had about 70 people throughout the whole week that came in and out. And again, that is just our duty as citizens. It really has nothing to do with what religion you practice.
What Baha'is are doing with their friends and their neighbors all across the world. They get together once a weekend and they think about what they can do to help grow their own spiritual qualities like love and patience and compassion, and how they can use these qualities to to be of service to their neighbors, and then they do some service projects for their communities.
Loving kindness, compassion, these are all things that all faith traditions teach. So if we can really bring those qualities into our life and try to build on them more and more, regardless of which faith tradition or lack of faith tradition we belong to, if we can concentrate on those guidelines, those principles, we can develop all in the same direction. It doesn't matter what faith tradition we belong to.
Now look at my veins, they're blue. All of us have blue veins. So that tells me we're all royalty, that we're all equal. None of us are superior to the others. We're all human, all created by the same divine being.
4 years ago, we helped create the UN's Global Interfaith Harmony Week, an event to focus all people, especially young people, on the essentials of tolerance and coexistence.
The World Interfaith Harmony Week was a United Nations response to a growing awareness and appreciation of interfaith work around the world.
My name is Len Gurok, and I have the pleasure of hosting tonight's event as part of World Interfaith Harmony Week 2019.
We are all one people, and this is one of the tenets of the Unitarian Church of Edmonton and of the Edmonton Interfaith Center. So this concert is put on every year to emphasize that unity.
Dr. King had a great quote about why segregation didn't work. He said, people fear because they don't know. He said they don't know because they don't communicate, and they don't communicate because they're separated. So let's tear that curtain down.
In my mind, the patron saint of the Edmonton Interfaith Center is the late Mary Hall. And it's this little quote here that I find quite attractive and I think is a wonderful quote for any kind of interfaith work. It is in the shelter of each other that people live.
Before we continue with the prayers of the people, Hugh has an uncanny knack for connecting the dots, and he came up and asked me if he could have a moment to speak about our refugee program. And what a more opportune moment, Hugh.
Well, I just thought I'd bring it up to date. The history of the refugees is that when things started going awry in Syria, there have been 5 different groups from this community who have brought in families, supported through us, by us, since now over 5 years. In fact, it's long enough now that the first ones who have arrived have become Canadian citizens, something that we should all celebrate. It's been over 20 children have come, and if you ask the parents why they have come, you know, they're fleeing terrible scenes in the Middle East, but often they'll say as well, it's for our children. Those children have integrated into the schools. They pick up English like a sponge, and they really are Canadians in many ways. we've recently heard of the sixth group that we've been waiting for. They will stay in a suite in Vicky and Kevin's house. This is a young family. They have one child. They've been waiting in Iraq. Everything was delayed by COVID, but we've heard recently that they're undergoing their final medical tests. And we don't get much warning when they are finally approved. An email comes in and it says they're arriving on this flight on this day. And at that point, the group has to get organized. And I think Kevin and Vicky would agree that things are pretty well organized. There always is a need for somewhat more funding because they have to be supported during the first year. And I'll talk later about that in the new year, but things are in very good shape, and I think we all should be proud of the role that Squamish United has played.
Thank you, Hugh. And that is an incredibly timely message and wonderful news. As we continue with our prayers to the people, the words you see on the screen are sung responses. Fortunately, Kayla knows when to come in and out. It's the same that we sang last week, with the word peace replacing the word hope. So we will start by singing the first stanza, and then we'll start with the verbal prayers of the people, and this will come back.
In this moment, we open the doors of our hearts to honesty before God about what we have done and left undone that created less peace in a hurting world. Let us breathe out this regret and breathe in the life-giving, forgiving Spirit of God, and out again with the peace of Christ.
In this moment, we open the doors of our lives to the call of the Spirit, inviting us to become more than we can ask or imagine. Let us breathe out our fear and bring in the courage of the Spirit of God, and out again with the peace of Christ.
Make our church unstable, a house for the holy, a warm and sturdy place for peace to live and grow. In this moment, we open the doors of this church, filling it with the compassion of Christ for all those who are struggling. We remember and pray for
Yeah, join in.
It came upon the midnight clear, that glorious song of old, from angels bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. Peace on the earth, goodwill to all, from heaven's all gracious King. The world in song to hear the angels sing. Heavenly music floats o'er all the weary world. Along its sad and lowly plains, they bend on hovering wing, and ever o'er its babel sounds the blessed angels sing. Yet with the woes of sin and strife, the world has suffered long. Beneath the angels' train have rolled 2,000 years of wrong. And warring humankind hears not the love song which they bring. Oh, hush the noise and cease your strife, and hear the angels sing. The days are hastening on by prophecy of old, when the earth-circling years shall come the dawn foretold, when we shall over all the earth its ancient splendors flame, and the whole world send back the song which now the angels sing.
May God's door of welcome swing open in your heart and in your life. May Christ's humble first dwelling remind you of the plenty you already know. May the Spirit lead you into more possibility and hospitality than you can imagine, making room in the inn for all. May it be so for you. May it be so for us. May it be so for this church. Amen. Thank you for coming today.